Rita Hayworth is picked as the Army's favorite glamour girl. Miss Hayworth expresses her thanks by kissing Private Martin Leeds of the Bronx.
Picture this, it's 1946, and the silver screen ignites as Rita Hayworth, in the sultry role of Gilda, peels off a single black glove with a smirk that could melt a glacier. That scene wasn't just cinema, it was a cultural earthquake. Soldiers in World War II plastered her face on bombers, and yes, her image even graced a nuclear bomb. Talk about explosive charisma. Rita Hayworth wasn't just a star, she was a fiery dream woven from Brooklyn grit and Hollywood sparkle, with hair like a sunset blaze and brown eyes that whispered secrets. But don't be fooled by the glamour. Beneath the sequins beat the heart of a warrior chasing freedom. Born Margarita Carmen Cansino on October 17, 1918, Rita danced her way from smoky Tijuana stages to Tinseltown's spotlight. She dazzled in films like You'll Never Get Rich and Cover Girl, but Gilda was her crown jewel, a role that made her both idol and prisoner. Off-screen, her life was a whirlwind, 5 marriages, a battle with Alzheimer's, and a childhood shadowed by control. Men go to bed with Gilda, but awaken with me, she once quipped, summing up the clash between her public allure and private struggles. Rita's story is a tango of triumphs and heartaches, each step a defiance of the cages life built around her. Here's the kicker: when her image adorned that atomic bomb, Rita was livid, ready to storm the press. Her studio boss, Harry Cohn, barked, "Rita, one word, and you're back dancing in Tijuana." She held her tongue, but that fire never dimmed. From a shy girl forced to perform to a legend who redefined Hollywood, Rita's journey is as captivating as her dance moves. So, buckle up as we unravel the tale of a woman who was more than a pin-up. She was a rebel with a cause. What do you think? Does Rita's drama top the charts, or is her resilience the real star? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into the dazzling, dizzying world of Rita Hayworth. Let's rewind to Brooklyn, New York, where on October 17, 1918, a tiny firecracker named Margarita Carmen Cansino burst into the world. The Cansino household? Picture a cramped apartment buzzing like a flamenco stage, where every corner echoed with castanets and dreams bigger than the borough itself. This was no ordinary family. It was a whirlwind of rhythm and ambition, with a dash of chaos that could rival a Hollywood script. At the heart of it was Margarita, a wide-eyed girl destined to become Rita Hayworth, but already wrestling with a world that wanted to shape her before she could shape herself. Her father, Eduardo Cansino, was a Spanish-born flamenco maestro with a mustache as sharp as his dance moves. He'd left Seville for the American dream, determined to make the world sway to his beat. Margarita's mother, Valga Hayworth, was an American showgirl with Irish roots and a laugh that could light up a speakeasy. Together, they were a dynamite duo, performing in vaudeville acts that had audiences clapping and occasionally dodging flying props. Our home was a stage, Rita later recalled to her second husband, Orson Welles, but there was no curtain to hide behind. The Cansinos lived for performance, but their apartment, stuffed with 2 sons, Vernon and Eduardo Jr., felt like a sardine can with a side of sequins. Margarita, the youngest, was the family's reluctant star. Even at 5, her lanky frame and ink-black curls made her stand out, though she'd rather hide behind her mother's skirts than face the spotlight. Her eyes, big as saucers and brimming with secrets, seemed to plead for a moment's peace, yet peace was scarce. Eduardo saw her as his ticket to fame, a pint-sized prodigy who could twirl faster than a Brooklyn streetcar. Valga, meanwhile, dreamed of Broadway glory for her daughter, whispering tales of footlights as she braided Margarita's hair. "You're born to shine," Valga would say, her voice soft but firm. But for Margarita, shining felt more like a chore than a destiny. Life in the Cansino clan was a high-wire act. By day, the family scraped by, with Eduardo teaching dance to bored housewives and Valga mending costumes late into the night. By evening, they transformed into a traveling troupe, piling into a rickety car for gigs at local theaters. Margarita, barely tall enough to see over the dashboard, was already learning flamenco steps that left her feet blistered. "I didn't choose dancing, it chose me," she later told a friend, her words tinged with resignation. The constant hustle bonded the siblings, though Vernon and Eduardo Jr. would sneak her extra bread when Eduardo wasn't looking, their way of softening their father's iron grip. Now, here's a gem of a story. Even as a child, Margarita exhibited early signs of rebellion against her father's strict regimen, a trait that foreshadowed her later struggles for independence. Caught red-handed, she faced her father's glare. "Dance it off, Margarita," he thundered, sentencing her to 2 extra hours of practice. As she spun, her cheeks flushed with defiance, she thought, "One day, I'll dance for myself." That moment captured her spirit, a spark of rebellion that would burn brighter than any spotlight. The Cansino home, for all its clamor, was a crucible. Eduardo's relentless drive clashed with Valga's softer ambitions, leaving Margarita caught in the crossfire. She loved her parents, but their dreams felt like chains. "My father was a mean man, and I was his dancing doll," she confided years later, her voice heavy with memory. Yet, those early years also planted a seed, a hunger to break free, to be more than a prop in someone else's show. Brooklyn's gritty streets, the clatter of dance shoes, the scent of Valga's rosewater perfume, all of it shaped a girl who was already dreaming beyond the cramped stage of her childhood. As the Cansinos chased fame, Margarita's world was about to tilt. The family's move to California would thrust her into a new spotlight, but that's a tale for another chapter. For now, imagine little Margarita, twirling in a too big dress, her heart whispering of a freedom she couldn't yet name. Gotta guess what her next step was? Drop it in the comments, and let's keep unraveling Rita's story. Imagine a pint-sized Margarita Cansino, barely 4 years old, twirling in a Brooklyn basement while her father's flamenco rhythms thundered like a storm. This wasn't just dance practice, it was the forge where Rita Hayworth's spirit was shaped, a mix of grit, dreams, and a stubborn spark that screamed, "I'll find my own way." Right on the heels of her chaotic family life, Margarita's childhood was a kaleidoscope of harsh lessons and secret joys, each moment nudging her closer to the woman who'd one day set Hollywood ablaze. But let's be real, the path to stardom was less a red carpet and more a rickety tightrope. From the moment she could walk, Margarita was her father Eduardo's prized pupil. By 4, she was mastering flamenco steps that would make grown dancers sweat, her tiny feet tapping out rhythms while her heart whispered for something else. "I didn't want to be a dancing doll," she later confessed to Orson Welles, her voice laced with a quiet ache. Eduardo's training was relentless, hours of spins and stomps, with no room for mistakes. Yet, in those grueling sessions, Margarita found a flicker of power. Each perfect twirl was a small rebellion, a way to claim a piece of herself in a world that demanded obedience. But oh, the escape she found in the flickering glow of silent films. While the Cansino household pulsed with castanets, Margarita's heart belonged to the Nickelodeon down the street. She'd sneak away, clutching a precious dime, to lose herself in Charlie Chaplin's antics. The little tramp, with his wobbly cane and hopeful grin, was her hero. Back home, she'd borrow her brother Vernon's cap, grab a broomstick, and waddle around the living room, mimicking Chaplin's shuffle. "I wanted to make people laugh like he did," she later told a friend, her smile tinged with nostalgia. Valga caught her once and burst into giggles, but Eduardo only scowled. "Less clowning, more dancing," he barked. Still, those stolen moments fueled Margarita's dreams of a stage where she could be free to create, not just perform. Tragically, not all her childhood memories sparkled. By age 10, Margarita joined her father on grimy stages in Tijuana, performing as part of the dancing Cansinos. The crowds cheered, but behind the curtain, Eduardo's control turned darker. He subjected her to abuse, emotional and, as she later revealed to Welles, physical, during those long, dusty tours. "I wanted to be free, but I didn't know how," she admitted, her words heavy with the weight of a child's confusion. Those nights, curled up in a creaky hotel bed, she'd hum Chaplin's tunes to drown out the pain, clinging to a dream of escape. Can you imagine the courage it took to keep dancing through that? Yet, Margarita's spirit refused to break. At 10, she hatched a plan straight out of a Chaplin flick. She'd run away with a traveling circus. One starry night, she stuffed a pillowcase with clothes and tiptoed out, only to be nabbed 2 hours later by a neighbor. "If I can't run, I'll dream bigger," she vowed, her chin jutting out defiantly. That fiasco became family lore. Valga laughed, Eduardo fumed, and Margarita learned that freedom would demand more than a quick sprint. Her brothers, Vernon and Eduardo Jr., slipped her a candy bar as consolation, their silent way of saying, "We're with you." These moments, Chaplin's magic, Tawana's shadows, that circus misadventure weren't just childhood snapshots. They carved the contours of Rita's soul. The joy of performance clashed with the pain of control, planting a seed of rebellion that would bloom in her Hollywood years. "Every step I took was a step toward something bigger," she later reflected, her voice firm with pride. As the Cancinos packed up for California, Margarita carried her dreams like a secret map, ready to navigate a world far beyond Brooklyn's cramped stages. What's your take? Did Margarita's early spark hint at the legend she'd become? Toss your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep chasing Rita's story. As Margarita Cansino's childhood unfolded, the world around her was a vibrant, gritty tapestry that both confined and inspired her. Fresh off her early years of relentless dance drills and stolen moments with Chaplin's films, she found herself navigating the bustling streets of Brooklyn and later, the dusty corners of Chula Vista, California. These places weren't just backdrops, they were the crucible where her dreams of freedom took root, clashing with a reality that seemed determined to keep her tethered. Picture a young girl, her lanky frame darting through city crowds or desert trails, her heart racing with ambitions too big for the small stages she called home. In Brooklyn during the 1920s, the air hummed with jazz riffs spilling from speakeasies and the clatter of Model T Fords. The city was a melting pot of dreamers, where immigrants like the Cancinos hustled to carve out a slice of the American promise. Margarita, barely a teenager, soaked it all in. She'd linger near newsstands, mesmerized by photoplay magazines showcasing stars like Clara Bow, their glossy smiles whispering of a world beyond her family's cramped apartment. "I wanted to be one of them," she later mused, her voice tinged with a child's wonder. But life wasn't all glamour. The Cancinos' constant gigs meant Margarita rarely saw a classroom. Instead, her education came from Brooklyn's pulse, the wail of saxophones, the chatter of street vendors, and the fleeting kindness of strangers who tossed her a penny for a spin. Then, in the late 1920s, the family packed up and headed west to Chula Vista, a sleepy California town where the sun baked the earth and dreams seemed to wither in the heat. For Margarita, it was a jarring shift. Gone were Brooklyn's lively crowds, replaced by endless stretches of dust and the drone of crickets. "Chula Vista was my cage, but it taught me to dream," she later told a reporter, her words carrying the weight of those arid days. The town's small theaters, where the Cancinos performed, were more barn than Broadway, with creaky seats and audiences who'd rather sip bootleg whiskey than applaud. Yet, Margarita's imagination thrived. She'd slip away to watch the horizon, picturing herself on a stage where the lights never dimmed. The cultural pulse of the era, silent films fading into talkies, just giving way to swing, lit a fire in her. While her peers swapped gossip at soda fountains, Margarita was memorizing the swagger of screen sirens like Greta Garbo. But her reality was starkly different. The family's endless tours left her isolated, with no friends to share her secrets. Her brothers, Vernon and Eduardo Jr., were her only allies, sneaking her comic strips to lighten the grind. "We were a troupe, not a family," she later reflected, a hint of bitterness in her tone. The contrast was stark. The world saw her as a budding star, but behind the scenes, she was a lonely girl yearning for a life she could call her own. Here's a story that captures her spark. At 12, during a show in Chula Vista, a fellow dancer mocked her dark, wavy locks as to Spanish. Stung but defiant, Margarita raided Valga's makeup kit, and, with a bottle of henna, transformed her hair into a fiery red cascade. The next night, she stepped on stage, her new look stealing the show. "If they want a star, I'll burn like one," she declared, her chin high. The crowd roared, but Eduardo grumbled about the cost of the dye. That bold move wasn't just vanity, it was Margarita claiming her identity, a first step toward the Rita Hayworth who'd dazzle the world. This era of jazz and dust, of small-town stages and big city dreams, was more than a setting. It taught Margarita resilience, fueling her hunger to break free from the shadows of her family's ambitions. "Every dusty road led me closer to something bigger," she later said, her voice steady with conviction. As the 1930s dawned, the Cansino's travels would soon catapult her into Hollywood's orbit, but that's a chapter yet to unfold. Can you picture young Margarita dreaming under a California sky? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep unraveling Rita's journey. If young Margarita Cansino thought her childhood was a whirlwind, stepping into Hollywood was like leaping into a hurricane, glamorous, chaotic, and full of sharp edges. Fresh from the dusty stages of Chula Vista and the jazz-soaked streets of Brooklyn, she was ready to trade her family's small-time gigs for a shot at the big screen. By the mid-1930s, the girl with the fiery red hair and a heart full of dreams was about to become Rita Hayworth, a name that would soon sparkle in neon. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. This was no overnight fairy tale. Rita's early career was a gritty climb, marked by stumbles, reinvention, and a stubborn refusal to let the industry's rules cage her spirit. At 12, Margarita was still performing as part of the dancing Cansinos, shimmying on Tijuana's smoky stages to keep her family afloat. These weren't glamorous venues. Think dimly lit cantinas where the air reeked of tequila and the audience was more interested in their drinks than the dancers. But her grace caught the right eyes. In 1934, a sharp-eyed scout from Fox Film Corporation spotted her during a show, mesmerized by her fluid steps and that untamed spark in her eyes. "You're a star," he told her, handing over a card that felt like a golden ticket. Suddenly, the Cansino family's road trips had a new destination, Hollywood's glittering promise. Fox didn't waste time. They signed Margarita in 1934, but there was a catch. Her name and look were deemed ethnic. Out went Margarita Carmen Cansino, and in came Rita Hayworth, a moniker as smooth as a martini and designed to sell tickets. "It's not just a name, it's a brand," the studio execs insisted, as they tamed her dark curls into glossy waves and coached her to soften her Spanish accent. Rita, barely 16, wasn't thrilled about the makeover but saw it as her ticket out of Tijuana. "I was just a dancer trying to survive," she later said, her voice carrying the weight of those early compromises. Can you imagine reinventing yourself at that age? Talk about a plot twist. Her first roles were Blink and You'll Miss Them. In 1934, she appeared uncredited in Cruz Diablo, a Mexican film where she was little more than a background swirl of skirts. The next year, she landed a small part in Dante's Inferno, released August 23, 1935, playing a dancer on a cruise ship. Her screen time was brief, but her presence was electric. Those long legs and that radiant smile hinted at a star in the making. Critics barely noticed, but audiences did. "She's got something," a theatergoer whispered, and word began to spread. Rita, however, was restless. These bit parts paid the bills, but they didn't feed her hunger to create, to be more than a pretty face in the chorus. Then came a setback. Fox merged with 20th Century Pictures in 1935, and Rita's contract was dropped in the shuffle. Most would have packed up and gone home, but not Rita. She doubled down, taking dance lessons and auditioning relentlessly. Her persistence paid off when Columbia Pictures, a scrappy studio with big ambitions, took a chance on her in 1937. Studio head Harry Cohn, a man with a temper as infamous as his cigars, saw dollar signs in Rita's poise. "You're raw, but you're gold," he growled, signing her to a 7-year deal. It was a turning point, but it came with strings. Cohn's controlling hand would soon become a new kind of cage. In Only Angels Have Wings 1939, Rita's portrayal of Judy McPherson marked her transition from background dancer to a compelling screen presence. This role not only showcased her emerging talent, but also reflected the era's fascination with independent female figures, a theme that would resonate throughout her career. Her scenes with Grant crackled, his easy charm met her fiery intensity, and the camera loved it. "Rita, you made me forget my lines," Grant later teased, a rare compliment from the suave star. The film was a hit, and Rita's name started buzzing in Hollywood circles. She wasn't a household name yet, but she was no longer just a dancer in the background. Here's a story that sums up her grit. During an audition for Columbia, Rita, teetering in unfamiliar high heels, tripped mid-spin and crashed to the floor. The room went silent. Most actresses would have fled in tears, but Rita laughed, dusted herself off, and launched into her routine again, her steps sharper than ever. The director, floored, shouted, "Hire her, she's a fighter." That moment wasn't just about landing a role. It was Rita proving she could rise above the industry's polished expectations. "I'll fall, but I'll always get up," she later told a friend, her voice steady with defiance. This early chapter was a balancing act. Rita was learning to navigate studio politics, grueling schedules, and the pressure to be perfect, all while clinging to her dream of freedom. Hollywood was a new stage, but it wasn't mine yet, she reflected, her words hinting at battles to come. Her time with Columbia set the foundation for her rise, but it also introduced her to Harry Cohn's Iron Grip, a challenge that would test her resolve. As the 1940s loomed, Rita was poised to leap from supporting roles to stardom, with films that would etch her name in lights. What do you think? Was Rita's early hustle the spark of a legend, or just the start of a wild ride? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep rolling with Rita's story. Rita Hayworth's early Hollywood years were like a warm-up act, setting the stage for a dazzling performance that would make her a legend. By the late 1930s, she'd clawed her way from Tijuana cantinas to Columbia Pictures' roster, proving she could hold her own opposite Cary Grant. But the 1940s? That's when Rita didn't just shine, she set the screen on fire. From dance floors to dramatic roles, she carved out a career that blended grit, grace, and a fierce hunger for creative control. Let's dive into 5 milestones that turned Rita into a household name, with her iconic role in Gilda as the glittering centerpiece. Buckle up, this ride is as wild as a swing dance in a storm. First up, You'll Never Get Rich, released September 25, 1941, launched Rita into the stratosphere. Paired with dance legend Fred Astaire, she played Sheila Winthrop, a chorus girl caught in a whirlwind of romance and military mix-ups. Their chemistry was electric. Rita's sultry spins matched Astaire's precision step for step. "Rita's the only partner who made me rehearse extra," Astaire admitted, wiping sweat from his brow. Her red locks bounced under the spotlights, and her smile radiated a joy that felt like freedom. The film was a box office smash, and audiences couldn't get enough of Rita's moves. "I was dancing my heart out," she later said, her voice brimming with pride. This wasn't just a role. It was proof she could command the screen as more than a pretty face. Right on the heels of that triumph, Cover Girl, released March 22, 1944, cemented Rita's versatility. Starring opposite Gene Kelly, she played Rusty Parker, a dancer who skyrockets to fame as a magazine cover star. The film's Technicolor glow made her look like a living flame, her sequined gowns catching every light. Rita and Kelly's dance numbers, especially the breezy Put Me to the Test, were pure magic, blending her elegance with his athletic flair. "She's a dream to dance with," Kelly gushed, though he joked about needing ice for his feet. Beyond the choreography, Rita's acting shone. She brought depth to Rusty's struggle between love and ambition. "This was my chance to tell a story, not just move," she reflected. The film's success made her a triple threat dancer, actress, icon. Then came the role that defined her. Gilda, released February 25, 1946. As the titular femme fatale, Rita was a revelation, her every glance smoldering with defiance and vulnerability. The scene where she peels off a black glove while singing "Put the Blame on Mame" stopped hearts worldwide. Cinema screens practically sizzled. "Gilda was my cage, but also my wings," she later said, capturing the role's paradox. Directed by Charles Vidor, the film cast her opposite Glenn Ford, whose brooding intensity matched her fiery allure. Their chemistry was so potent that audiences whispered about an off-screen romance. The movie wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural tsunami, turning Rita into a pin-up goddess. But it came at a cost. Her identity became tangled with Gilda's seductive shadow. Can you imagine being trapped in a role that iconic? Not one to be boxed in, Rita took a bold swing with The Lady from Shanghai, released December 24, 1947, directed by her then-husband, Orson Welles. Playing Elsa Bannister, a mysterious blonde, she traded her signature red locks for a platinum bob that shocked fans and infuriated Columbia boss Harry Cohn. "You've ruined her." Cohn bellowed, but Rita stood firm. "I'm an artist, not a doll," she snapped back. The film's noir twists and mirrored hall climax showcased her range, proving she could slink through shadows as easily as she danced in the light. Welles called her a genius who fought for every frame. Though the film baffled some critics at the time, it's now a classic, and Rita's daring choice marked her as a star who craved creative freedom. Finally, in 1960, Rita's legacy was etched in stone, in a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Unveiled on February 8, 1960, it honored a career that spanned decades and defied expectations. By then, her screen roles had slowed, but her impact hadn't. Fans gathered, chanting her name as she smiled, her elegance undimmed by time. "The star isn't just mine, it's for everyone who believed in me," she said, her voice soft but steady. It was a moment of triumph, a nod to the girl who'd once spun on Tijuana stages, dreaming of a place among the greats. These milestones weren't just career highs, they were battles Rita fought to define herself. Her dance partners, from Astaire to Kelly, praised her professionalism, but Harry Cohn was a constant thorn, pushing her into roles that prioritized glamour over substance. "She's a fighter," Glenn Ford once said, recalling her fiery debates with directors. Off-screen, Rita's life was a tangle of personal struggles, but on-screen, she was unstoppable. Each role, especially Gilda, echoed her quest for freedom, a theme that pulsed through her performances like a heartbeat. The irony, the world adored Rita's sparkle, but few saw the cost. "I gave everything to the screen," she later mused, a hint of weariness in her words. As the 1940s gave way to new challenges, these triumphs laid the groundwork for battles with Cohn and the weight of her own myth. Got a favorite Rita moment from these films? Toss it in the comments, and let's keep unraveling the legend of Hayworth. Rita Hayworth's rise to stardom in the 1940s was nothing short of meteoric, with films like You'll Never Get Rich and Gilda cementing her as Hollywood's reigning siren. But right on the heels of those triumphs, the spotlight turned scalding. The same industry that crowned her a goddess seemed hellbent on locking her in a gilded cage. Rita faced battles that tested her resilience, studio tyranny, a suffocating public image, and her own relentless drive to be more than a pin-up. Yet, true to form, she didn't just endure. She fought back with a fire that could have lit up Sunset Boulevard. Let's unpack the challenges that nearly dimmed her star and how she clawed her way through, all while chasing that elusive dream of freedom. At the heart of Rita's struggles was Harry Cohn, Columbia Pictures' cigar-chumping overlord. Cohn wasn't just a boss, he was a puppet master who saw Rita as his golden goose. "You're my creation," he'd growl, dictating everything from her scripts to her social calendar. Want to know how controlling he was? He once bugged her dressing room to monitor her conversations. Rita, ever defiant, found the device and smashed it with a hairbrush, muttering, "Spy on that, Harry." Her rebellion wasn't just bravado. It was a cry for autonomy in a system that treated stars like property. "Hollywood gave me fame, but it took my freedom," she later confided, her words heavy with truth. Can you imagine working under that kind of scrutiny? Then there was the shadow of Gilda. That 1946 role made Rita a global icon, but it also shackled her to an image she couldn't shake. The world saw her as a sultry temptress, all smoldering glances and satin gowns, but Rita was desperate to be seen as an artist. "I'm not Gilda, I'm Rita," she'd snap when fans asked her to recreate that glove-peeling move. The public's obsession boxed her into roles that prioritized curves over character, like Affair in Trinidad 1952, which critics called Gilda with a weaker script. She once joked, "I nearly hired a hitman to take out Gilda, but I settled for a haircut." That humor masked a deeper frustration. Being a sex symbol was a trap, and escaping it felt like outrunning her own shadow. The pressure wasn't just external. Rita's own perfectionism pushed her to the brink. Preparing for roles, she'd rehearse until her feet bled, determined to prove she was more than a pretty face. For The Lady from Shanghai, she spent weeks mastering a colder, more calculated persona, studying noir films to nail the vibe. Her boldest move, chopping her iconic red locks into a platinum bob, a decision that sent Cohn into a rage. "Orson Welles called me a genius for it," she later said, a spark of pride in her voice. That transformation wasn't just cosmetic, it was Rita reclaiming her narrative, showing Hollywood she could rewrite the rules. But the film's mixed reception stung, and she felt the weight of proving herself all over again. Studio politics added fuel to the fire. Cohn's favoritism meant Rita often clashed with directors who saw her as his pet project. During Gilda's production, she butted heads with director Charles Vidor over a scene she felt was too exploitative. "This isn't art, it's a peep show," she argued, storming off set. She returned hours later, martini glass in hand, and quipped, "Fine, but next time, make it a bigger drink." The crew roared, but her defiance came at a cost. Cohn tightened his grip, assigning her fluffier roles to keep her in line. Her frustration boiled over in 1948 when she briefly suspended her contract, demanding better scripts. "I'd rather quit than be a prop," she told a friend, her jaw set with resolve. Rita's personal life didn't help. Her marriages, especially to Orson Welles and Prince Ali Khan, drew relentless media scrutiny, painting her as a diva or a gold digger. "The press loved to twist my story," she later said, a trace of bitterness in her tone. The tabloids' glare made it harder to take risks professionally, as every move was dissected. Yet, she pushed forward, taking on roles like Pal Joey 1957, where she played a jaded showgirl with a depth that surprised critics. "She's not just glamorous, she's human," one reviewer wrote, a rare nod to her talent over her looks. That role was a small victory, a reminder that Rita could still surprise the world. Through it all, Rita's resilience shone. She leaned on allies like Glenn Ford, who'd nudge her with a grin during tense shoots, saying, "Show 'em what you've got, Red." Her humor kept her sane. When Cohn once handed her a script she hated, she tossed it across his desk and deadpanned, "Harry, my cat could write better." These moments of defiance, big and small, were her way of carving out space in a world that wanted to define her. "I fought for every inch of myself," she later reflected, her voice steady with hard-won pride. These battles shaped Rita as much as her triumphs. The struggle against Cohn's control and Gilda's shadow forced her to dig deep, honing a strength that would carry her through later years. "Every fight made me sharper," she once said, a glint of defiance in her words. As the 1950s loomed, her career would pivot toward new expressions of her artistry, but the scars of these challenges lingered, a testament to a woman who never stopped chasing her own light. Got a thought on Rita's grit? Drop it in the comments, and let's keep peeling back her story. If Rita Hayworth's career battles showed her grit, her style and contributions lit up Hollywood like a supernova. Hot on the heels of her triumphs and struggles, she didn't just perform, she redefined what a star could be. With her cascading red locks, slinky gowns, and a dance style that felt like bottled lightning, Rita turned every frame into a story. Her legacy wasn't just in the roles she played, but in how she played them, blending artistry with allure in a way that left an indelible mark on cinema. Let's dive into the magic of her style and the trail she blazed, all while wrestling with that ever-present hunger for freedom. Rita's look was a masterpiece in itself. Her hair, a fiery cascade that seemed to catch every spotlight, wasn't just a trademark, it was a statement. Whether swept into elegant waves or tumbling loose, it framed her like a halo of flame, making her impossible to ignore. Her wardrobe, pure enchantment. In Gilda, she slinked through scenes in a black satin gown that hugged her curves like a lover, setting a standard for glamour that still makes designers swoon. "I didn't just wear costumes, I became them," she once said, her voice brimming with pride. Off-screen, she favored tailored dresses that balanced elegance with ease, a nod to her practical side. But let's be honest, when Rita walked in, the room stopped, as if the sun itself had decided to take a bow. Her movement was where the real magic happened. Rita didn't just dance, she wove stories with every step. Her training in flamenco gave her a grounded, fiery grace, but she layered it with a Hollywood polish that felt effortless. In Cover Girl, her spins with Gene Kelly were like a conversation, each twirl a sentence in a tale of joy. She danced like she was telling secrets, Kelly once marveled. Unlike the polished chorus girls of the era, Rita's style had an untamed edge, as if she was always one step away from breaking free. That quality made her performances feel alive, like a heartbeat pulsing through the celluloid. Can you picture her gliding across the screen, every move a rebellion against the ordinary? Rita's greatest contribution was her pioneering blend of dance and drama. Before her, actresses were often boxed into one lane, dancer or diva. Rita smashed that divide. She could lead a dance number with Fred Astaire, then pivot to a noir thriller with Orson Welles, bringing the same intensity to both. Her ability to emote through movement set a new standard, inspiring stars like Marilyn Monroe, who studied Rita's Gilda performance to craft her own sultry charm. Rita turned Hollywood into a dance floor, Monroe once said, half in awe. By showing that a star could be both graceful and gritty, Rita opened doors for multifaceted performers, from Sid Charisse to Madonna. The role of Gilda was her ultimate canvas. It wasn't just a character, it was a manifesto. As the femme fatale, Rita embodied a woman trapped by desire, yet yearning for control, a mirror to her own life. Her performance, especially that iconic glove-peeling scene, wasn't just seductive, it was a quiet defiance, a way of saying, "I'm more than your fantasy. I dance my way to freedom, one step at a time," she later reflected, her words carrying the weight of that struggle. That role didn't just define her career. It reshaped how women could be portrayed on screen, blending vulnerability with power in a way that felt revolutionary. Here's a gem of a story that captures her spirit. During a tense meeting with Harry Cohn, who was pushing yet another Gilda-style role, Rita showed up to dinner in the actual black satin gown from the film, ordered a massive steak, and ate it with gusto. "If I'm stuck as Gilda, at least I'm getting a good meal," she quipped, her smirk daring Cohn to argue. The room erupted in laughter, and even Cohn couldn't stay mad. That playful rebellion wasn't just about defying her boss, it was Rita staking claim to her identity, refusing to let the industry reduce her to a single note. Her influence rippled beyond the screen. Rita's bold choices, merging dance with drama, embracing complex roles, paved the way for a new breed of star. Her style, from those fiery locks to her confident stride, became a blueprint for glamour that echoed in fashion and film for decades. Every time you see a red dress that steals the show, that's Rita winking at you, a costume designer once said. Yet, for all her impact, Rita's heart remained restless. "I gave the world my art, but I wanted to give myself freedom," she confided late in life. That tension between her public image and private quest made her contributions all the more poignant. As Rita's career evolved, her style and legacy would intertwine with her personal life, where new battles awaited. Her artistry was a beacon, but the woman behind it was still searching for a stage she could call her own. What's your take on Rita's iconic vibe? Drop it in the comments, and let's keep exploring her dazzling world. Rita Hayworth's screen presence was a blaze of glamour, but off-screen, her personal life was a roller coaster that could have inspired a dozen soap operas. Following her career's dazzling highs and brutal lows, her relationships were where she sought solace, love, and above all, freedom. But love, for Rita, was a tricky dance full of missteps and fleeting joys. With 5 marriages and a cherished friendship with co-star Glenn Ford, her heart's journey was as captivating as her films. Let's peel back the curtain on the men who won her heart, the friend who steadied her, and the woman who kept searching for a love that wouldn't bind her. First up was Edward Judson, a slick businessman who swept Rita off her feet in 1937, when she was just 19. Judson, nearly twice her age, promised to make her a star, and for a young dancer hungry for independence, that was catnip. They married on May 29, 1937, in a quiet Las Vegas ceremony, with Rita in a simple white dress that barely hinted at her future glamour. "He saw my potential," she later said, her voice tinged with naivety. But Judson's support came with a catch. He pushed her into grueling schedules and questionable deals, treating her more like a product than a partner. By 1942, Rita had had enough. She filed for divorce, walking away with a newfound resolve. "I married for freedom, but I found a new cage," she confided to a friend, her words heavy with lessons learned. Right when she was shaking off Judson's shadow, Orson Welles entered the scene. The genius behind Citizen Kane was smitten, calling Rita the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. They married on September 7, 1943, in a Santa Monica courthouse, with Rita glowing in a pale blue suit. Welles was a whirlwind of ideas, and for a while, their partnership felt like a creative haven. They welcomed daughter Rebecca in 1944, and Rita cherished quiet nights reading scripts with him. But Welles' restless ambition and long absences strained their bond. "Orson gave me wings, then flew away," she later mused. By 1947, they parted ways, leaving Rita with a bittersweet ache and a deeper hunger for stability. Enter Prince Ali Khan, the jet-setting heir to the Aga Khan dynasty. Their romance was a fairy tale gone rogue. Rita, now a global star, met him at a Cannes party in 1948, where he charmed her with wit and a rose tucked behind his ear. They married on May 27, 1949, in a lavish French Riviera ceremony, with Rita in a cream gown that made headlines. Daughter Yasmin arrived in 1949, and for a moment, Rita reveled in her princess life, sipping champagne in European palaces. But Khan's playboy ways and the media's relentless hounding wore her down. "I wanted a home, not a circus," she said, her voice edged with exhaustion. By 1953, she walked away, hot dog in hand from a roadside stand, grinning defiantly. "Divorce tastes better with ketchup," she quipped to a friend. That image, Rita chomping on a hot dog post-royalty, says it all. Next came Dick Haymes, a crooner with a velvet voice and a mountain of debt. They tied the knot on September 24, 1953, in a Las Vegas chapel, with Rita hoping for a quieter life. Haymes, however, leaned heavily on her fame, dragging her into his financial messes. "He sang like an angel, but lived like a storm," she later said, her tone weary. The marriage crumbled by 1955, as Rita realized she'd swapped one trap for another. Her fifth husband, James Hill, a producer, seemed promising when they married on February 2, 1958. Hill admired her talent, but his controlling streak echoed Harry Cohn's. "I thought he'd be my partner, not my director," she sighed. They divorced in 1961, leaving Rita wary but unbroken. Through this whirlwind, Glenn Ford was her rock. Their friendship, sparked on the Gilda set, was a rare constant. Ford, with his easy grin, could make her laugh even on her darkest days. "You make my heart do a tango," he'd tease, handing her a soda during breaks. They never crossed into romance. Rita valued his loyalty too much to risk it, but their bond was electric. Late-night chats over burgers, trading stories about studio nonsense, gave her a glimpse of the unconditional support she craved. "Glenn saw me, not the star," she once said, her voice soft with gratitude. Rita's relationships were a quest for love that didn't demand her soul. Each marriage, each heartbreak, was a step toward understanding what she truly wanted, a connection that let her be herself, not a trophy or a savior. "I loved with all I had, but it wasn't enough," she reflected late in life, her words raw but resolute. Her friendship with Ford, though, showed she could find warmth without losing herself. As these chapters closed, Rita faced new personal battles, but her heart, scarred yet hopeful, kept beating. What's your take on Rita's wild love life? Share it in the comments, and let's keep diving into her story. Rita Hayworth's love life was a kaleidoscope of passion and heartbreak, but her inner battles were the real storms that shaped her. Following the whirlwind of her marriages and her anchoring friendship with Glenn Ford, Rita faced personal struggles that cut deeper than any tabloid headline. From the lingering scars of her childhood to the devastating grip of Alzheimer's disease, she wrestled with demons that tested her resilience. Yet, through it all, she found solace in small joys, caring for her cats, cooking Spanish dishes, and clinging to her dream of freedom. Let's step into the quieter, more poignant corners of Rita's life, where her strength shone brightest against the shadows. The roots of Rita's struggles stretched back to her childhood, where her father Eduardo's control left wounds that never fully healed. While she'd channeled that pain into her early performances, the emotional toll lingered like a ghost. As an adult, she grappled with trust issues, often second-guessing those closest to her. "I built walls to feel safe, but they kept me lonely," she confided to a friend in the 1950s, her voice heavy with self-awareness. This guardedness made it hard for her to form lasting bonds beyond her daughters, Rebecca and Yasmin, whom she fiercely protected. Late at night, she'd sit by their beds, whispering stories of Brooklyn's starry skies, as if shielding them from the chaos she'd known. That maternal devotion was her anchor, a quiet rebellion against her past. By the 1970s, a new shadow emerged, Alzheimer's disease. Long before her official diagnosis in 1980, Rita noticed troubling signs, forgotten lines, misplaced keys, moments where the world felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. "It's like my mind is slipping through my fingers," she told Yasmin, her voice trembling with frustration. The disease was a cruel thief, stealing the sharp wit and radiant charm that had defined her. On film sets, she'd fumble scenes, once calling a co-star Gilda in a moment of confusion. Ever the fighter, she laughed it off, saying, "Well, she's still stealing the show." But privately, the fear gnawed at her. Rita, who'd spent her life defying cages, now faced one she couldn't escape. The public didn't make it easier. As her memory faltered, tabloids spun cruel narratives, labeling her erratic or unreliable. "They think I'm fading, but I'm still here," she snapped to a reporter in 1976, her defiance flaring. Yasmin became her fiercest advocate, moving her to New York in the late 1970s to shield her from Hollywood's glare. There, Rita found comfort in routine. Simple acts like brewing coffee or folding laundry grounded her. "These little things keep me whole," she'd say, her smile fragile but genuine. Her resilience in the face of Alzheimer's wasn't just survival. It was a testament to a spirit that refused to be dimmed, even as her world grew hazy. Amid these battles, Rita's quirks offered a glimpse of her warmth. She adored her cats, often rescuing strays and naming them after old co-stars like Carrie or Fred. She'd spend hours stroking their fur, murmuring, "You get me, don't you?" Her love for cooking Spanish dishes, a nod to her heritage, was another refuge. In her kitchen, she'd whip up paella or gazpacho, the scents filling her home with memories of simpler times. "Cooking is my dance now," she'd say, stirring a pot with the same grace she once brought to the screen. These habits weren't just hobbies, they were lifelines, small acts of control in a life often dictated by others. Here's a story that captures her heart. In the early 1970s, during a rare public appearance, Rita struggled to recall a fan's name. Flustered, she blurted, "Just call me Gilda, darling." The crowd laughed, but Yasmin saw the pain in her mother's eyes. Later, Rita retreated to her hotel room, clutching a photo of Rebecca and Yasmin. "I'm still their mom, no matter what," she whispered, her voice fierce with love. That moment wasn't just about Alzheimer's. It was Rita fighting to hold on to her identity, to be more than the star or the illness that threatened to define her. Rita's struggles were a mirror to her lifelong quest for freedom. The wounds of her childhood taught her to guard her heart, while Alzheimer's challenged her to find meaning in fading moments. "I've spent my life running toward something better," she once said, her words a mix of weariness and hope. Her cats, her recipes, her love for her daughters, they were her quiet victories, proof that even in her darkest hours, she could still create joy. As these personal battles unfolded, they intertwined with key moments that marked her life's next chapter, where her strength would face new tests. What do you think of Rita's quiet courage? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep exploring the woman behind the legend. Rita Hayworth's personal battles, from childhood scars to Alzheimer's, revealed a woman who fought for every shred of her identity. Yet, even as those struggles shaped her, key moments in her later years showed her defiance and heart in vivid color. Following her turbulent relationships and quiet resilience, 3 events stand out. Her bold refusal to star in Casino Royale 1967, her trailblazing advocacy for Alzheimer's awareness in the 1980s, and her poignant retirement in New York from 1972 to 1987. These weren't just milestones, they were Rita's final dance, a testament to her unyielding quest for freedom. In 1966, producers of Casino Royale, a James Bond spoof, came knocking with a juicy offer, a glamorous role alongside David Niven and Peter Sellers. At 48, Rita was still a vision, her elegance undimmed. But the script leaned heavily on her old Gilda persona, slinky gowns, sultry winks, the works. Rita wasn't having it. During a meeting, she slid the script back across the table with a polite but steely smile. "I'm done playing the siren," she said, her voice firm. "Find yourself another Bond girl." Later, over coffee with daughter Yasmin, she chuckled, "Me, outrunning spies. I'd rather nap with my cats." That refusal wasn't just a career choice. It was Rita reclaiming her narrative, choosing authenticity over a paycheck. Can you imagine turning down 007? That's our girl. Fast forward to the 1980s when Rita's Alzheimer's diagnosis became public. By then, her memory was a patchwork, but her spirit was fierce. Yasmin, her fierce protector, partnered with the Alzheimer's Association to raise awareness, and Rita became an unintentional pioneer. In 1981, at a fundraising gala in New York, Yasmin spoke on her behalf, sharing Rita's story to a hushed crowd. Rita, frail but radiant in a simple blue dress, sat quietly, clutching Yasmin's hand. When a reporter asked why she'd allowed her illness to be publicized, Yasmin relayed Rita's words, "If my pain helps others, it's worth it." That moment turned Rita into a beacon for a disease few understood, her vulnerability sparking conversations that reshaped public perception. "She's still changing the world," Yasmin said, tears in her eyes. Rita's advocacy, though passive, was a powerful act of giving, a final gift from a star who'd always fought for others' freedom as much as her own. Her retirement in New York, from 1972 until her death in 1987, was perhaps her most personal chapter. After decades in Hollywood's spotlight, Rita chose a quieter life, settling into a modest Manhattan apartment with Yasmin. The city's hum, street vendors, honking cabs, felt like a softer echo of her Brooklyn youth. She'd sit by her window, sipping tea and watching passersby, her cats curled at her feet. "This is my stage now," she'd say, her smile tinged with peace. Despite Alzheimer's fog, she found joy in small rituals, arranging fresh flowers, humming old jazz tunes, or flipping through photo albums with Rebecca and Yasmin. Neighbors adored her, often spotting her in a wide-brimmed hat, strolling Central Park with a serene grace. "She's like a queen who doesn't need a crown," one said. Here's a story that captures her essence. In 1975, during a rare lucid moment, Rita attended a neighbor's dinner party. When someone asked about her Hollywood days, she leaned back, sipped her water, and quipped, "Honey, I danced so hard I wore out the stars." The room erupted in laughter, and for a moment, the old Rita, witty, magnetic, shone through. That spark, even in her quiet years, showed a woman who never let illness steal her spirit. "I'm still me, somewhere in here," she'd whisper to Yasmin, her voice soft but sure. These events, rejecting Casino Royale, championing Alzheimer's awareness, and embracing a humble retirement, weren't just personal triumphs. They were Rita's way of rewriting her story, choosing dignity over expectation. "I've lived for myself at last," she said in a rare clear moment, her words a quiet victory. Her New York years, though shadowed by illness, were a canvas of resilience, painted with love for her daughters and a city that let her be. As these moments faded, they left a legacy that would echo far beyond her lifetime, cementing Rita as more than a star, a woman who danced through life's storms. What's your take on Rita's final chapters? Drop it in the comments, and let's keep unraveling her incredible journey. Rita Hayworth's life was a tapestry of triumphs, heartbreaks, and quiet rebellions, woven together by her relentless pursuit of freedom. After her bold stand against Hollywood's expectations and her poignant final years in New York, her legacy didn't fade. It blossomed into something timeless. When Rita passed away on May 14, 1987, the world didn't just mourn a star. It celebrated a woman whose influence still ripples through cinema, fashion, and culture. From movie screens to red carpets, Rita's spirit dances on, a testament to her artistry and unbreakable heart. Let's explore how she's remembered, the mark she left, and why her story still captivates us today. Rita's impact on film is like a melody you can't forget. Her pioneering blend of dance and drama, showcased in roles that balanced grace with grit, set a blueprint for stars who followed. Actresses like Marilyn Monroe and Sharon Stone have cited her as a muse, with Stone calling Rita the original femme fatale who made strength sexy. Her Gilda performance, with its mix of vulnerability and defiance, became a touchstone for complex female characters, inspiring everything from Jessica Rabbit's sultry swagger to Charlize Theron's fierce roles. But Rita's reach goes beyond the screen. In The Shawshank Redemption, 1994, her iconic Gilda poster is a symbol of hope for Andy Dufresne, a nod that introduced her to a new generation. That poster was Rita's wink to the world, director Frank Darabont said. Can you imagine a single image carrying that much power? Her influence on fashion is just as vibrant. Rita's signature look, those fiery red curls and curve-hugging gowns, became a shorthand for glamour. Designers like Zac Posen and Versace have drawn on her aesthetic, crafting dresses that echo her bold elegance. Every time you see a red dress that stops traffic, that's Rita's legacy. A Vogue editor quipped in 2020, her black satin Gilda gown remains a fashion holy grail, recreated for red carpets and Halloween costumes alike. At a 2019 Met Gala, a young fan showed up in a near-perfect replica, glove and all, grinning, "I'm channeling Rita, but I'm keeping my shoes on." That playful homage shows how Rita's style still sparks joy, inviting everyone to borrow a bit of her magic. Rita's advocacy for Alzheimer's awareness, though led by Yasmin, cemented her as a humanitarian figure. After her 1980 diagnosis, her family's work with the Alzheimer's Association helped destigmatize the disease, paving the way for research and support programs. In 1989, the Rita Hayworth Gala, an annual fundraiser, was launched in her honor, raising millions for care and cures. "Mom would have been proud to know her struggle helped others," Yasmin said at the inaugural event, her voice thick with emotion. The gala, still thriving in 2025, is a glittering reminder of Rita's unintended but profound impact, turning her personal battle into a beacon of hope. Her legacy is also preserved through tributes and archives. The Library of Congress added Gilda and Cover Girl to its National Film Registry in 1997 and 2018, respectively, ensuring her work endures for future audiences. Film festivals, like a 2018 TCM retrospective, screen her classics to packed theaters, with fans young and old marveling at her radiance. "She's not just a star, she's a feeling," one attendee said, clutching a vintage Gilda poster. Documentaries, like the 2020 PBS special Rita Hayworth, The Love Goddess, delve into her life, blending clips with interviews from Yasmin and peers like Glenn Ford. These efforts keep Rita's story alive, framing her as a woman who fought for her place in a world that often tried to define her. What makes Rita's memory so enduring? It's her humanity. She wasn't just the glamorous icon or the tragic figure. She was a fighter who danced through pain, loved fiercely, and never stopped chasing freedom. "I wanted to be myself, not someone else's dream," she once said, her words a quiet manifesto. That struggle between the public's adoration and her private quest resonates today, especially in an era where stars navigate similar pressures on platforms like X. Posts on X in 2025 still buzz with love for her, with users sharing clips of her cover girl dances or debating her best roles, often with hashtags like #RitaForever. "She's the queen we didn't deserve," one user wrote, summing up the fandom's devotion. Rita's story is a reminder that legacy isn't just about fame, it's about impact. She reshaped cinema by blending art with allure, inspired fashion that still turns heads, and lent her name to a cause that saves lives. Her life, with all its highs and lows, feels like a dance, passionate, unpredictable, and utterly unforgettable. Rita didn't just live, she burned, Yasmin said at a 2020 memorial, her voice steady with pride. As we close this chapter on Rita's journey, her light still guides us, a star that never fades. What's your favorite piece of Rita's legacy? Share it in the comments, and let's keep celebrating the woman who danced her way into eternity. Rita Hayworth's story, from her first steps on a Brooklyn sidewalk to her quiet evenings in a New York apartment, is a symphony of courage, heartbreak, and unyielding spirit. As we've journeyed through her life, her dazzling rise, her fierce battles, her tender loves, and her enduring influence, we've seen a woman who never stopped chasing freedom, even when the world tried to bind her. This final chapter isn't just a farewell to Rita. It's a celebration of her journey, a reflection on the lessons she left behind, and an invitation to carry her light forward. Picture Rita now, stepping through the mist of memory, her red curls catching an eternal glow. Let's wrap up her tale with the reverence it deserves. Rita's life was a dance across decades, each step a defiance of expectation. Born in 1918, she transformed from a shy dancer into a global icon, her presence so magnetic it could halt time. Yet, her path was never easy. She faced a controlling father, a manipulative studio system, and a disease that stole her clarity. But she met each challenge with a fire that burned brighter than any spotlight. "I lived for the moments I could be myself," she once said, her words a beacon through her storms. That quest for authenticity, whether she was spinning on a stage, laughing with her daughters, or simply brewing coffee in her kitchen, was the heart of her story. It's what makes her more than a star, it's what makes her human. Her journey teaches us resilience in its rawest form. Rita didn't just survive. She thrived by turning pain into art. Every setback, be it a failed marriage or a cruel headline, became fuel for her next performance, her next act of defiance. When the world tried to cage her in a single image, she pushed back, proving she was more than a fantasy. "She taught me to keep going, no matter what," Yasmin said in a 1990 interview, her voice steady with pride. For us, Rita's resilience is a reminder life's storms may bend us, but they don't have to break us. Can you feel her strength echoing in your own challenges? Another lesson lies in her pursuit of freedom. Rita's life was a constant tug-of-war between who she was and who others wanted her to be. From studio bosses to tabloid writers, many tried to define her, but she carved her own path through bold choices, quiet rebellions, and even her final years of simplicity. "Freedom isn't given, you take it," she once mused, her eyes alight with conviction. Her story urges us to question the roles we're assigned, to seek spaces where we can be our truest selves. Whether you're navigating a tough job or a crowded world, Rita's fight whispers, Don't let anyone dim your spark. Her humanity is perhaps her greatest gift. Rita wasn't flawless. She stumbled, she doubted, she loved too hard, but she never stopped reaching for connection. She poured her heart into her daughters, her friends, and even strangers through her Alzheimer's advocacy. In her quiet moments, feeding stray cats or stirring a pot of paella, she found joy in the ordinary. The little things are what make a life, she said, her voice soft but sure. That warmth, that ability to find light in the mundane, invites us to cherish our own small victories, to see beauty in the everyday. Imagine Rita now, in some cosmic theater, watching her films with a sly grin. She'd probably laugh at her own glamour, saying, "I was just trying to keep up," but she'd beam at the love she inspired, fans on X sharing her dance clips, designers sketching dresses in her honor, families touched by her Alzheimer's legacy. Her story lives in these ripples, in the way she taught us to fight, to dream, to love. A 2023 X post nailed it. Rita Hayworth wasn't just a star, she was a revolution in red. That revolution, her blend of grit and grace, continues to inspire, from Hollywood to the hearts of those who dare to be free. As we close this series, Rita's journey leaves us with a challenge, to live as boldly as she did. Take a page from her book, stand up to the cages, dance through the pain, and find joy in the quiet moments. "I gave the world my heart," she once said, and what a heart it was. So let's raise a glass to Rita, our dancer, our fighter, our eternal flame. Share your favorite Rita moment in the comments, and let's keep her spirit alive. What will you take from her story to light your own path?